Hey, this is RuPaul, and it is my pleasure to spend some time with the guys from The Late Late Show with James Corden. Now, you guys are amazing. Let me introduce everybody. The producers, of course, are Rob Crabb, Ben Winston, and host and producer James Corden. Hello.
Hi, how are you, Ru?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to talk to you guys.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. You know, I love going on this show. It is so much fun. It's like going to your favorite pub and hanging out with your crew. Was that the objective when you started this thing?
Absolutely. That's the greatest compliment we could ever receive, in truth, because I think when we started talking about the show, although we didn't know completely what it would look like, what it would sound like, we didn't know what the set was at this point or any of those things, we would talk about it only in feelings, and we would talk about how we wanted it to feel, that what we wanted was it to feel like the place you'd go after you've been to the theatre, or the bar that you'd go to after you've been for a great dinner and you don't want the dinner to end and you go, should we go for a drink? Yeah. Let's go to that place down the road. That's all we ever wanted it to feel. And once we had that feeling, then we started to build what the show is, what it would look like, how we'd, well, then if we're going to do that, if we want it to feel like a sort of cocktaily after party thing, we should bring all of our guests out at the same time. We should have a bar. We should put audience between me and the cameras. You know, most shows you go to, the host is here and the camera's right here and all of the audience are behind that. And we were like, well, let's put them, maybe we could put them in sort of cinema seats with little sort of lamps around and things like that. And we really started to talk about it only in a sense of feeling and vibe, really. As you can see over my shoulder, that's why I've got a lovely bar. I host the show quite often drunk. And you know, that's how we wanted it to feel for the guests, for the audience, for anyone watching at home. We wanted it to exclude nobody, really. That was it.
So you didn't know what the show would look like or what it would feel like. Did you have any idea what the show would smell like?
Well, we just wanted it to not smell like us. And we thought if we were doing that, we'd be halfway there, really. That's why we were keen to get you on early, just to fragrant the backstage area more than anything.
Well, you know, you've almost done the impossible, just because, you know, being English, it's hard to include an American audience with an English sensibility. Was that something you worried about?
Yes, is the answer. Yeah, because, you know, look, you know, Ben and I both grew up in Britain, where late night television just isn't a thing. You never, there's talk shows, but they are, you know, once a week on a, you know, whether that's like Friday Night with Jonathan Ross or the Graham Norton Show and things like that. But there's never this thing of like every night, late night, being a host, coming out, talking about the news, first guest, second guest, comedy bit, music, you know, it doesn't exist. And so, and I have to say, you know, Rob is really the key component in all of that, really, that Robert worked for a long time in late night television. And, you know, we knew some things and any things that we didn't know. He was an incredible sounding board for wanting to make a late night show that was evolved somehow.
Yeah.
But still celebrated and paid respect to those tent poles that exist within a sort of late night framework.
Yeah, Rob, what shows did you come from? What late night shows did you come from?
I started Last Call with Carson Daly, and then I did David Letterman for a little while, and then I started Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, and then I was there for the start of Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, and then before all of that, I had done the Late Late Show with Craig Kilborn. So 2 predecessors prior to James, I'd worked on that show as well. That was my first one.
And Ben and James, how did you guys meet?
Well, it was, I think I was about 18. James was a little bit older than me, not too much. And it was a drama. It was a scripted show in the UK. I was a PA, getting people coffee and tea at 18. And James had a great part, but a small part in this drama that starred Andrew Lincoln. And we just immediately hit it off. I sort of always say we sort of recognized ambition in each other, almost, in that we sort of both knew that like we were doing this show that we loved, but we were excited about what we could do. But it was a friendship, really, until we started working together when it was sort of, 2010 or something, we started actually directing stuff and creating stuff together.
Doing sketches for Comic Relief and things like that, and then we made a couple of things in the UK and shows and stuff. And Ben was always a great sort of, first and foremost, a friend, but also an incredible sort of confidant whenever I need help or anything's in my career. And I just felt like, for years really, I would tell anybody that would listen that, like, this guy is just the best. He's just absolutely the best producer you could ever wish to meet. And I would never stop telling anybody. And then when I got this job, I was like, okay, I'll do it, but I really would love to bring. I need somebody that I know. I can't just go on my own. I can't just come on my own and be introduced to a load of producers who I don't know. We've got 12 weeks to get this show up and running. And I said, I really would love Ben. And I remember when we talked about it, and Ben had to then go and speak to his wife, and Ben said, okay, I'll come for 6 months, 9 months to get the show up and running. But then I've got to move home. And I always had this sort of nagging feeling that, like, well, if I can make that 9, 12, and then that 12 might become 24. And 6 years later, here we are still here. He has 2 American children, but for me, it was strange because, like I say, I would tell anybody that would listen, like, you've got to meet this guy, you've got to meet this guy. And then when we came to America, nobody knew who I was. They didn't know who Ben was. And we'd go to these meetings where all they knew was 2 names on a piece of paper. And one they'd heard was this new host of a late night talk show. And the other one was this, like, mastermind genius producer. And by anybody's metric, we look like we're in the wrong bodies. Like, when you walk into a room, Ben looks like the talk show host and I look like the kind of producer and so on. People would be very confused for a second as we met. And I couldn't be more proud of our friendship and of what we've done here. I don't even know if we're not really sort of people who tend to look back on things really, but I think at some point it's going to be a real long exhale and we go, oh man, we really just upped and moved our families to America. And Ben's the producer of the Grammys. He's directing and producing the Friends special and the company. It's a wonderful adventure to be part of. It really, really is.
Well, and it shows in the program you all produce, over 900 episodes, and over 6 years later, the show is still fresh and fun. And given the challenges of the pandemic, it still has that people who are looking for their tribe. When I was a kid, I found Monty Python's Flying Circus. I thought, oh, this is my tribe. These are my people. And I feel that way about your show, even during the pandemic, which it's become even more like a tribe. There's the episode where you call Oprah, where it feels organically that it happens naturally, where you call Oprah about the hotel idea. I think you guys are can we show that clip of you guys calling Oprah?
If you could pick a celebrity to open a hotel, whose would you want to stay in?
An Oprah chain of hotels would be fabulous.
100%, without question. Yeah.
Hotel.
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 Can you
We're
contact
launching
Oprah?
the hotel.
Yeah.
Can I contact Oprah? Can I contact Oprah? No. I can't. Have I got her number? She did call me and I saved it. Wait. Oprah! Oh, I bet it's not. I don't think it's her number, though.
She probably changes it all the time.
Should we call her? This is madness. Bad.
Hello.
Oprah?
Hello.
Is that Oprah?
It's Oprah.
Oprah, it's James Corden.
Look at you. Hey, babes.
And I'm calling because we think we've had an idea that could make you billions of dollars. And we think you should launch a range of hotels.
What?
and the room service menu is like my favorite things and stuff like that. We think it's an absolute goer. What do you say?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All we ask is that we can all stay for free for a weekend when you open it. Is that okay?
Okay, how many people are we talking about?
We're talking about all of the people that came up with this idea. And Guillermo.
Okay, why not? Why not? We're gonna make billions of dollars. So
Oh.
why can't you let everybody stay for free?
Guys, Oprah Winfrey and the Bird of an Idea. We love you, Oprah. I'll see you soon. Love you. Bye.
That is so funny, and it feels so natural. Was it natural? You don't have to tell me. You don't have to.
Well, I can tell you, I would happily tell you. I promise you, up until that moment, I could not be more truthful. I didn't know that I had Oprah's number. She called me once, and I remember saving it, thinking I'll save it because I imagine that's Oprah's assistant's number. And so this just came up completely organically, as almost everything in our show does now at the moment. It starts completely organically as a group of people just trying to have fun and levity in what has been a really difficult year for so many people. And I remember there and then in that moment, and then I called and it didn't get through. And then I kept talking and I looked at my phone and it said missed call from a no caller ID. And I was like, oh, should we call it back? And then called, and then before you knew it, Oprah was I've never been so hot and sweaty than in that moment, because you think, what if Oprah's like, don't call me on TV, don't do that. And she'd be well within her rights to.
Yeah.
Luckily, she sent me a text straight away going, I never pick up the phone to numbers I don't know. I don't know why I did. I just did. And she was like, that was a hoot. Also, P.S., good idea.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea. I would stay there in a heartbeat at the hotel. Not only that, but the way it organically came up, it felt like a bunch of friends drinking and going, hey, what if this happens? You know, how many of your ideas come about in that sort of organic way?
I feel like a lot of the Act One does now, because the way we open the show now, and we've made this sort of intimate environment with a few staff members and the crew that we can have in the room, because everybody's still doing social distancing and stuff. Now it's just become this loose talk, and we'll just shoot and things go right and left, and we sort of surprise ourselves every day as we're making the show. So, and that was, the Oprah's a perfect example of that, because he was like, should I call her? And I was like, no way. I thought that was going to have all sorts of ramifications for recording Oprah. But he did, and then we just ended up going down that whole road.
Now, how many years has Carpool Karaoke been going on?
Since the show started, we did it on our third show.
Yeah, I think so. Third, yeah.
Third show, we did it. We shot the first one a week before we launched the show. And and then we haven't shot one now in well over a year. For obvious reasons.
Was the idea to sort of make the show, take it out of the studio and make it, give the show more texture? What was the impetus behind doing that?
We always wanted the show to be sort of on a big canvas, you know. We wanted the show to. We've just never ever felt like we should be a show that is dictated by our time slot. We thought there's never been a greater time to make content of this nature ever, where, you know, we're well aware that the majority of our audience probably don't watch the show when it airs on TV. They either watch it on catch up or they watch it in cut down clips on YouTube and other platforms and things. And so we always wanted to make a show that and I think these shows live or die, the longevity of them live or die on what are the forks in the ground, in a way that prop up your show. What are the things, if you think about David Letterman, you think of like top 10 lists and pet tricks. If you think of Jay Leno, it's jaywalking. If it's Jimmy Kimmel, mean tweets, or Halloween candy. If you think of Jimmy Fallon, it's, you know, lip sync battles and Wheel of Impressions and things like that. And we knew that we had to have some of those things, because otherwise you just live or die on what the news is that day. That's it. That's your show will live or die on what happened that day. And so we knew that we needed some things that would be signature returnable bits in a way. And Carpool Karaoke, again, you know, like so many good ideas you do, just came about very, very organically of thinking, well, where are we on the show? We're in Los Angeles. People talk about traffic all the time, seemingly. What if we need the help of the biggest recording artist in the world to use the carpool lane to get to work? And then then you're suddenly Carpool Karaoke, and you're like, well, that feels like an idea. And then you think, well, actually, this could be, you know, because I think the thing I'm most proud of in those carpools, I think all the songs are great and they're the glue that hold it together. But really, it's about a stripped down interview. That's what it is. These are people who in their day-to-day lives are never on their own. They are always with managers, security, hair, makeup, assistants, all these things. And suddenly it's just me and them and some fixed cameras having a chat and singing the hits. And look, we always felt it was a good idea. I think it would have been beyond anybody's wildest dreams that it would have penetrated culture in the sort of manner that it has.
Yeah, you've done so many of them. Do you ever get starstruck? And who's made you starstruck?
I don't know that starstruck's the right word, but I've had real moments where I've thought, if this was an auction prize, this would go for hundreds of thousands of dollars. If someone said, up next, lot number 21 at the auction, you will drive around for half a day in a car with Paul McCartney, singing Penny Lane down Penny Lane.
Wow.
Visiting his childhood home, just you and him, and he will end the show with a private gig in a pub for you and 100 other people. I mean, it's priceless. Or you and Barbara Streisand will drive around singing the hits of Barbara Streisand. It's like, you'll drive around at London with Adele and she'll sing all of her hits just to you in a car. But in truth, not even just the carpools, the whole experience of making this job is a series of moments where, you know, jumping out of an aeroplane with Tom Cruise, or performing on a crosswalk with Hugh Jackman, you know, singing Hair completely naked in the middle of a road with Lin-Manuel Miranda, like watching Donald Glover and Reggie Watts improvise a song and make it up there and then on the set of the show. Like, there are just, it's a constant feeling of you cannot get blasé about this. You cannot start to think like, ugh, I've got to go to work again today. These are priceless memories that we're all collecting, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting, you just brought up the whole YouTube of it all and how that's become a part of the talk show conversation. Now, one of your clips has recently reached 25 million views. It's pretty amazing. It's really good. It's quite the get of the century too. It's with Prince Harry. Let's take a look at that.
When a friend of mine moved to town recently, I decided that I would show him some of Los Angeles' hidden gems, all while traveling in the style of a true native Angelino. Hey!
This is subtle. Where's the Range Rover?
Can I interest you in a tea? Now look, we're on the 405.
James, you've got Carpool Karaoke.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do English tea on the 405.
English tea on the 405, why not?
That'd be cool. I guess tea on the 405 is not a good idea.
Clean it up, Harry. I do feel like you might need a base in Los Angeles. Right there is the house from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Do you remember the song?
Now, this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down. Now, take a minute.
Sit right there.
Sit right there.
I'll tell you how I became the prince of a town called
Bel-Air.
Look at you! How much would you sell this house to Harry and Meghan for?
Give me an offer.
This is where you should live. I don't think there's anything cooler. You'd be the Fresh Princess of Bel-Air. Well, of course, he dragged his heels. He's already used the bathroom. That's how at home he feels.
We've got 8 obstacles out there for you.
Well, hang on, wait. You're saying, sorry, is it ready, set, go? Come on, let's go. Let's go. You don't have to talk to me like I'm a dog. Come on, let's go. I have no interest. Come on. Ah! Oh, that's disgusting. Ah! That's military thinking.
You all right? That was quite fun. I enjoyed that. Same time tomorrow? Never again.
Wow, amazing. You know, I mean, it's really crazy. How long had you known him before you shot this?
Well, Ben and I had both known him for a while, actually. There was a certain time in London where if you went out long enough and you ended up drinking long enough, you'd probably bump into Prince Harry once in a while.
Really? Is that true?
No, I'm joking. And no, we just met him a few times, and then I've always been very, very fond of him. And then he asked me if I would do a sort of 10-minute performance at his wedding in the evening, and that brought us very much closer. And Ben and I both attended his wedding, and then I think Harry had always sort of mentioned he'd always said, like, oh, I'd love to do something on the show, but he reached out to you, right, Ben, saying, when can we do this?
Yeah, he sort of was like, this would be fun. You know, we're coming out of lockdown. I'm in LA. Do you think we could, should we plan something fun to sort of almost cheer everybody up in a way? And then obviously, as soon as you say something like that to us and our team, our brains go crazy, because we wanted to do something that was really exciting, but then at the same time, we still had the COVID of it all, which makes making this show so difficult. And one of the things I think that we've been confronted with this year, in a way, for our show, it's been a little bit more of a hindrance, because a lot of shows rely very heavily on the news and the monologues and the jokes, whereas we do big stuff, And so one of the great things for us has been trying to work out how we do those big things in this environment. And actually, Prince Harry's a great example of it, where we went, well, what if we did an open top bus? Because you're both transplants, so you get to do a tour of LA and you're showing him around LA, which makes logistical sense. A viewer isn't watching it going, why are they on an open top bus? But at the same time, it's safe because they're 6 feet apart without making a big deal of being 6 feet apart, and they're in the open air. And then our brilliant team just start coming up with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air ideas, or maybe you take him to that house, which we just did, knocking on the door and hoping that they would answer. And then the army, sort of the army cadet training thing that Prince Harry was just so incredible at, and also we've never seen him do that. But yet it allowed James to do what he does brilliantly, which when I think about some of the great interviews, and I would say this because he's my closest friend and also I'm the producer of the show, but you think of those great interviewers and you talk about people like Howard Stern and whatever, because they get stuff out of people that others don't. I sort of think people talk about, and you mentioned Carpool before, Rue, and this Prince Harry thing is a great example of it too. We get stuff out of people because James has this way about him that people don't even think they're doing an interview. Whereas before you know it, we're getting the most intimate interview that Prince Harry has ever done. We're getting information about Paul McCartney and Adele and Michelle Obama almost in our car. And that is because of that interview technique, which sort of lulls people into this false sense of we're just having fun here. And then actually you're getting this great stuff. So the Prince Harry one was a great example of, I think, our team thinking really creatively about how we made something safely, but also, blew the roof off it. And we didn't announce it, that we were doing it. We didn't say a word. We literally just dropped it on a Thursday night within our show at 12:38. And we just went, oh, by the way, last week I spent some time with Prince Harry. Take a look. Because at the time, everyone was talking about the Oprah interview, which was following a couple of weeks later. And everybody had an opinion of that Oprah interview and they hadn't seen it. The British media were full of an opinion about whether they should do it, they shouldn't do it. Was it good? Was it bad? And we were like, let's stay out of this. Let's just drop it. And then no one can write an opinion piece without everybody having the ability to see it and judge it with their own eyes. So yeah, it was a fun piece for us to do.
Now, have you all found that there are teams of celebrities who want to come and do your show to humanize their acts, and maybe they have some, I don't know, some bad press over here, or they're thought of as a certain kind of way. Do you find that a lot of celebrities come to you to humanize their public appeal?
I don't know if that's the case. I think certainly in sort of the success of Carpool, there was probably a couple of iterations for it to get to the level that it did. I think where, you know, like when we did one with Justin Bieber, I think he was in a place in his life, or coming out of a place in his life, where I think there was a lot of public opinion about him. But we never started it thinking, oh, let's try and, you know, do some sort of image repair. That was never spoken about. There's never anything we were going to do. But what happened with that segment was people went, oh, he's nothing like what I thought he was like, actually. And I think sometimes, look, I think when you're a public figure, it's very difficult a lot of the time that you can be sort of portrayed as something because of a mistake that you might have made 15 years ago, you know? And so I think any place where someone might see a place on a show where really all we ever want to do is for our guests to shine, to have a great time, for them to shine, for the show to shine. Because if they shine, then the show shines. If the show shines, we all keep going, you know? And we're never ever looking at something as like, oh, I wonder if we can get a scoop. That's just not in the nature of who we are as people. And so therefore will never be the nature of the show. So I don't know if people look to us in that way. I would hope that people and publicists and guests would look at our show as a safe place.
Yeah.
As a place that only wants to celebrate them.
Well, and you guys have also brilliantly, you know, sort of walked and tiptoed around the political environment in a way that's still fun, but it does have a point of view. And that's interesting. And it's so beautifully done in One Day More, the President Trump parody. Let's take a look at that real quick.
Good morning.
Hey, someone's happy. Let me guess, last day of Trump jokes?
You got it. Last day of Trump jokes. Just one more day. One day more.
We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side.
One day more.
We love you. You're very special.
The final day of Trump as president. The White House has a brand new resident.
So bad and so evil.
It's been 4 years of endless crimes, but now he's finally out of time. One day more. No more days of angry tweets. 'Cause this time he's gone for good. Ship him off to Mar-a-Lago. Do they even want him dead? Biden better change the sheet. Maybe throw away the land. Will you change the locks with me? It's time. It's time. The day is here. One day more.
One more day of rigged elections. This impeachment is a lie. We'll take selfies in the Senate. We will watch the liberals cry.
That's a given right. And the Trader Joe's will start a viral fight. Don't you take our guns, we protect the peace. If you pull us cans, we'll just call police.
Tomorrow we'll discover what our guy Joe Biden has in store. No more Trump. One more day. One day more.
We will never back down. We will never, ever surrender.
All right, so of course, Lamiz, James, you have a music theater background. Is this one of your more proud parodies?
I think so. I mean, I love it, and we have such a phenomenal group of writers here at the show, who, you know, we did a parody of Paul McCartney's "Maybe I'm Amazed" after Trump said, maybe I'm immune. I don't know. And that was a writer on a show called Lawrence Dye, who literally 6 minutes after that interview was like, what about this as a parody? And had just put together a few lyrics. And then, Rob, this was Tim Seidel had this idea, right?
Yeah, Tim Seidel, who helps run our monologue, had the idea for One Day More. And it's, first off, one of the greatest songs ever written. And it is ripe for parody. And thematically, the one thing that we thought we could predict was when there would be one day more. The day before the inauguration, we knew, and then January 6th happened. We were like, will there be one day more? But when we were thinking about it, we thought like, this will be the one to put out right before inauguration. And so one of the writers pitches it, and then everybody, like, it sort of instantly clicks as a good idea. And then you have to figure out how to shoot it in a COVID safe way, in a COVID safe environment. And we wanted to be able to benefit Broadway workers that weren't working. And so we wanted to find a way to bring in people from the Broadway community. But again, you can't fly people in, you can't test everybody to bring them on the lot. So then another producer had the idea of putting them all in boxes around, and so that you can still cut in as James walks by monitors, there's someone that was in a stage production of Les Mis performing part of a song. And so it ended up being this, like, I can't tell how involved it looks to a viewer on screen, but this incredibly detailed piece that took some time and took sort of every muscle of the show to put together. But then I think it was also something we could all be proud of when it was finished.
Yeah, and you should be proud of it. And in fact, the way you guys have produced the show in the era of the pandemic has been beautiful. Will the show eventually go back to the way it was, or has the pandemic changed the way you produce the show from here on out?
Well, that's the $1 million question, Rue, that we don't know, right? I mean, we talk about it. We talk about it a lot.
Yeah, I think that I would say our first 15 minutes of the show today are better than they've ever been in the 5 years previously. Because I think what we did when the pandemic struck was, rather than just going, let's just be in a holding pattern until this is all over, what we did, and you saw a little bit with the Oprah clip earlier, it's almost like, let's lean into the fun of it. And so, we have this theory that if you're seeing stuff that used to be a certain way, you miss it. So if you are watching a show and the audience isn't there, but the seats are, or you're watching sport and the stadium is empty, you immediately go, well, it's not as good as it was. Whereas actually, if you can create a show that doesn't have a space for an audience and doesn't look like the old show, then immediately the psychology of a viewer isn't going, well, this isn't good. They're just going, oh, this is a new thing. So actually, when we wanted to get out of James's garage quickly. So we actually redid our set, and actually where James sits now is where the audience used to be. We built the set in to make it a much smaller, more intimate space. And then it gave our crew almost the license to banter back and forth with James and be part of it. So now we feel that people are just watching to check in on how producer Dave is going, trying to get a date with Patti LuPone, or how Nick Bernstein, our executive, how his hair's growing, or Pete on camera one, how his Vegas weekend was. And so those people are becoming part of the show, and actually it's showing James as this, just as this sort of leader of this gang in a really fun, beautiful way. I think we'd be really remiss to just go back to a 6-minute monologue with 170 people screaming and clapping after every joke, because I sort of feel like we've shown that we can do something a bit more inventive and exciting where people are tuning in because they literally don't know what's going to happen. So we're working out right now how we keep our part one like it's been, really fun, really improvised, really we don't know what's going to happen. But yet we still manage to do the other stuff that we used to do that we can't right now, those Crosswalk the musicals, Drop the Mics, Carpool Karaokes. And then I think we've got an incredible hour where part one is almost pandemic part one. And then 3 to 6, those parts are where we can go back to doing the bits that we've really missed out on doing over this last year.
I'm interested because I can only imagine how brilliant and how much fun the writer's room is over at the Late Late Show with James Corden. But given the current climate, have you all felt kind of boxed in and strangled by sort of playing it safe and not offending anyone in the room? What's it like in the writer's room?
I can't think of a time where that's been the case. We have a really incredible group of people. I think we have one of the most, I don't know this for sure, but we have an incredibly consistent group who work here at the show. Very few people have ever left, or we're very, it's very much like a family, really. So I don't know that those things have happened, right? I can't think of it at the time.
No, I don't think that there's a single writer that would say that they prefer writing over Zoom. I think that everyone misses being in a room together. I think that is a way in which tonally, when you're talking in a Zoom and suddenly you're saying something, then somebody else speaks and it mutes, it's hard to get any creative rhythm going. And so I think that if anything, I think the writers would all just like to be together again. I think it would be nice to be able to get everybody back sitting around a table. And we're edging closer and closer to that, or at least sitting in a room 6 feet apart. But I don't think that we haven't felt like the friction of Zoom meetings necessarily. It's just more the fact that you can't, if somebody says something, there's sort of a, I don't know, Zoom, you got to economize a little bit. So you can't just start chasing somebody else's idea off of a box on Zoom into somebody else's box on Zoom. It's helpful to all be sitting together to talk things through. So that's the part that we miss. We miss the idea of being able to, James has part of an idea, but he's sitting around with a bunch of people and we're casually talking about it, and then someone else grabs it and starts to roll with it. That's the part that's missing from the show right now.
Yeah.
But aside from that, everyone's stuck with it and has worked really hard. And the fact that we've been able to make Zoom work, and that any of these shows, anybody creative anything right now can make anything work, I think deserves applause for everybody who's doing it.
No, the Super Bowl was put on by CBS. Excuse my ignorance, right? Was that on CBS, the Super Bowl?
Yes.
It was. So did CBS come to you with the Weekend idea, or did you approach the Weekend with the Super Bowl idea?
Well, I think the Weekend, because he was performing the halftime show, I think there was something where he had to do. There was an interview or something that he had to do, and Abel is not a fan, as any of his fans would know, of necessarily giving interviews. And he said, "Well, can I shoot something with the Late Late Show?" So then they came to us, and we thought, well, we'd of course love to. We are all huge fans of his, so we pitched him and his team this idea of, what if I was helping him out with the halftime show, and then there would be a 3-minute clip that could play in the pre-show, and then the clip would live, online and on our show on the Monday, and he went for it and he loved it, and that was, I think, roughly one of the first sort of larger scale things we shot in COVID, and it was tough with the restrictions and all those things. But I mean, I was just thrilled to hang out with him for a minute. I'd say I don't think it's an overstatement to say I kind of fell in love with him. He's like the greatest company you could ever wish to have.
I was petrified by us doing that, because literally a week before, he is the sole performer at the Super Bowl halftime show. And if any of our team had given him COVID, I don't know what they would have done. And I was like, we're so safe on our show. We're so fortunate. We've been in our studio since July of last year, and touch wood, we've been going ever since. But oh my goodness, I lost sleep on the fact that if one of our team or a makeup artist suddenly had tested positive, and then he had to quarantine if one of us tested positive, and then suddenly they just didn't have a halftime show, because why don't they have a halftime show this year? Why Pepsi lost that money and CBS lost that? Oh, because he went and did a silly sketch with the Late Late Show. I lost sleep over that, Rue. But luckily, it was all fine. And yes, he came and did it.
Well, let's take a look at the clip that you did for the Weekend's Super Bowl.
This year, CBS is hosting the Pepsi Super Bowl 55 halftime show, and I knew sooner or later the network's biggest star would have to pitch in and help out. Unfortunately, young Sheldon doesn't have a cell phone. He's not allowed, he's still a child. So when The Weeknd was really struggling with his big halftime show performance, guess who he called?
I didn't call anyone. Dude just showed up.
Big box, little box, cardboard box. Push the car, push the car. Oh, that's nice, push the car. The sprinkler, the sprinkler, the sprinkler. Sip the tea, sip the tea, sip the tea.
This isn't working.
It's not working?
No.
All right, it's not working. It's okay. It's okay. This is a process. I've got some other ideas. You've got to be able to play in amongst distractions. Okay, keep singing. That's it. Keep singing. There. Keep singing. Okay, watch out. Popcorn peanuts. Popcorn peanuts.
Actually, I'd love some.
Keep singing. Finally, I've convinced him to give my way a try. Yes. Well, what do you think?
James, I loved it. Thank you.
My work here is done. You're welcome. I will see you guys halftime in Tampa Bay. All right, safe flight, everyone. I'll see you there.
Take it easy.
Yeah, and you, man. Look after yourself.
Safe travels.
Super Bowl, here we come.
Okay, forget everything we just did. Never let that man in this building again.
So much. I'm a big fan of The Weeknd. I've actually never seen his personality before. And this clip gave me an idea of who he is. He's a lot of fun, but I only know his music. I don't know his personality.
That was the amazing thing about it. Lots of people go, I've never heard him speak before.
Right.
It was so thrilling.
Well, I can always count on the Late Late Show with James Corden to make my favorite celebrities more human and have so much fun. I know I have so much fun every time I go on that show. Thank you guys for putting so much work into this. It really shows, and it really does carry on the tradition of the great talk shows of my childhood. And I feel like I found my tribe with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rue. Very lovely.
Rue. Always in the tribe, Rue. We love you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Bye.
Mwah.